Hi, besties. Welcome back to another episode of Tea and Takes. Welcome back to another episode of Tea and Takes with Simi. I hope your new month has been going lovely. I hope your day has been going beautifully. And if it's not been, don't worry. I'm going to say a prayer that it will start going better. And I hope the cough that's been in the air has not caught you. You wanted to catch me, but I was like, oh, is she? Anyways, today's episode seems to be a fun one. And we'll also be taking the takes in Tea and Takes very seriously. Today, we'll be doing a red flag analysis. So I scoured social media. I went on Reddit and different other corners of the internet, and I found people's real life red flags. And someone who has also been dating, I thought, let me delve in and give my opinion, because I thought some of them were very valid. I thought some were like, oh, I think you're being a little dramatic or kind of nitpicky. And yeah, I saw some that I thought, oh, it's kind of in between. I think if we communicate, this one might not be that bad. It is a lot, so I haven't decided yet. Based off of how it goes, we'll decide whether or not it would have a part 2, but let's see how it goes. So let's dive in. The first one was over criticism of one's appearance. So some examples I saw were maybe a guy that a girl is dating making unsolicited comments about how the person dresses, saying, oh, maybe, oh, you don't dress feminine enough, or you don't dress conservative enough, or you don't dress actually surprisingly scandalous enough, like you need to show more skin, whatever. I think that this one, so my conclusions or my judgments will be valid, in between, or ridiculous, or okay, let me not call it ridiculous, let me say nitpicky, yeah. So those will be my judgments. I think this is in between, because I'll say in between, but I'm leaning almost actually towards valid. Like, this is actually a valid, in fact, you know what, it's not in between, it's a valid red flag. It's a valid red flag. Anyone who is overly critical about your appearance, I think that it usually is telling of deeper issues. It's telling of issues, number one, with maybe a person who, and in my case I'm a lady, so I'm going to talk about men, a man who likes to take a person who's different from who they typically like and then try to change them. Like, they get some form of whatever from trying to change. Maybe they see a woman who like expresses herself very well through her dressing, and they want to, like, they get a thrill from trying to change people to different people than who they are. And so they're the type to go see a woman who dresses like an absolute baddie. Like, you saw her, you went out of your way to go ask her out, and you want to be in a relationship with her, and then you then start, like, they use that sometimes as a way to break down your self-esteem and everything, to humble you. And so I think that that's a valid. If someone is overly critical of my appearance, whether it's clothing or weight, all of those things, I think I'm a dip. I think I'm a dip. So yeah, I think that's a valid red flag. If the person is making critical comments about how you appear, a lot of times how you appear is also a huge part of your personality. So it means that they're just criticizing your personality. And if they don't like you, what are they doing around you? Why are they asking you out? They need to dip. They need to leave. Yeah. So I think this is a valid one. Let's go to the next one. Next is constant criticism of preference. So say some of the examples where the person usually sort of criticizes my choice of music. The person is always criticizing, again, how I dress. The person is criticizing, like, even irrelevant things. Like, have you ever met the people who are very contrarian? And I don't know why they do that. I think it's a form of possession. Like, they're just always trying to be contrary. So it's always just criticizing anything it is you prefer. They're just trying to criticize. Oh, why did you choose this? Why did you do this? Yeah, I think that's a valid red flag. Very valid, bro. Anyone, friend or partner, who is trying all the time to criticize your preferences, that person hates your guts. I think that's my own opinion. I think that we typically gravitate towards people that are similar to us in, like, basic values. And if the person you want to partner with is always criticizing your preferences, or the person you're already even partnered with is always criticizing your choice of music, your choice of clothes, your choice of things you do in your career, just normal things you do in your everyday life, I think that, yeah, you need to dip. That person doesn't like you. And what are you doing with someone that doesn't like you? They will break down your self-esteem. Your confidence is going to be in the gutter by the time they're done with you. I think you need to dip. Okay, so judgment on that, valid red flag. Let's go to number 3, overreaction to minor issues. So an example of this is maybe a guy who gets upset over very little things. So maybe he gets upset that you forgot to text me back immediately. He got upset that you spoke to me when you were talking to me and laughing. Then that thing was just, he just gets upset at, like, sort of very little things. And I remember the case of this one was actually texting back. The example giving was like, oh, this guy I'm dating gets upset over little things, like me forgetting to text back immediately. And on this one, honestly, I wanted to go immediate, valid, but I decided to do in between. Or honestly, I think it's in between, but I'm leaning towards valid, because I've been there. And typically, people who get upset over little things like this have control issues. And control issues usually, if not reined in, or if they're not taking active steps to heal it, is usually the, how will I say it, beginning of abuse, both emotional or physical. I think that most people who have been in abusive situations will tell you that the beginning was like them being controlling. It's almost a permanent factor that most of the time anyone who is abusive usually has control issues. And so if they are overreacting on minor things, a pattern like that can become very toxic very quickly. I personally would actually see that as a red flag. Like if every little thing becomes a thing, it becomes a big deal. Also, honestly, for me who prioritizes peace so much, and the friends and anyone who I'm with, that even family that I gravitate towards are peaceful people. There are people who, like, it takes a lot to offend them. You have to have actually gone out of your way to do something really bad for them to be offended. And they're not seeking to be offended. You ever be with some people and you're like, bro, I think you just want to be offended. So like they're actually seeking to always think that you're coming from a good place. And so you have to have it has to have actually been a bigger deal. I think that dating someone like this who is overreacting over every minor thing would actually, that would be too much for me. I think that maybe context can matter. Maybe the reason I'm leaning towards in between is because I'm thinking about context. Like the thing that I might call minor issue might be a major thing to someone else. So I'm thinking about the subjectivity of issues. So let me think of something off the top of my head. I can't think of something where like it's just subjective. The way I grew up, this thing is a bigger deal to me. Okay, let me say like shut up. I think that me growing up, the word shut up was literally like you cussing somebody out in my house. So you couldn't say that. I couldn't say that to my siblings. So if someone else says shut up to me, honestly, it feels like they've just slapped my face. It's like a big deal to me. It feels like they've cussed me out. And so that might be a minor issue to them, but to me, it's a bigger deal. So I think, that's a good example. So I think it's because of that I'm saying in between, because something that other person that says shut up to me and I'm like, why did you say that? And I'm like, and I get upset, might feel like that's my reaction is an overreaction and that's a minor issue. But to me, that due to my upbringing and everything, it was a bigger deal. It's not an overreaction on my part. So only with that will I say. But in this example the person gave on the texting back quickly and all of that, I think it's contextual. If it becomes a pattern where the person is now doing it for everything and they're getting big upset, you can't say sorry and just move on. And like you can't just really show like, oh, I'm sorry, I do understand, and move on. And they're making it a bigger deal. I think you have to dip. So I think my judgment on that is in between. Let's go on to the next. I think I need to move fast. There are a lot. Okay, next is judging food choices. So this says that he criticizes my eating habits. This was talking about something like, he criticizes my eating habits. He says I should eat healthier. This one I thought in between as well, but I'm also thinking of like preference in this one, because if you're judging someone's food habits and their food habits, like how well they eat, if they are very obsessed with like healthy eating and all of that, if it's very important to you to the point that you have to keep mentioning it, I think you should just make that like a deal breaker in your relationship. Because I think like occasional advice is fine. Occasionally just advising someone like, oh, I think this thing is good. But like if it becomes literally constant judgment, that is already control and that's not cool. So I guess I'll be in between to just say, if it's occasional, if it's just once in a while, it's good. But food is a big part of people's life. Nutrition is a big part of people's life. Food is comforting to a lot of people and all of that. So if it is a big deal to you that you need to count your calories and you need to this thing, and it's such a big deal that you can't just do it on your own, you need your partner to do it, then I think you should go find someone who eats like you. And but I think that I wouldn't like that actually. Some of these things personally, I'm trying to not use myself as like a whatever, like a metric, because I think that if you judge my food choices, I think if it's constant, like every day judging of my food choice, I don't think I would. That's because like food is life, food is enjoyment, and I believe very much in healthy eating, but I also believe in like balanced eating. I believe that it's important to also have some sweets once in a while. Like you can't live your whole life eating quinoa and unless you have like a real restriction. I believe in enjoying life just as much as you're disciplined. So that's that. I guess I'm in between for that. Next we have ignoring boundaries. Before I even go into the example, I'm sure that this is valid red flag. Like, okay, the example is she ignores my need for alone time and she insists that we spend every moment together. Immediately no. Immediately no. As someone who likes my alone time like mad, this would be crazy. And I shared with a few friends some TikTok posts I saw last week of someone actually talking about their ex-husband and how this was actually something the person did for control. So especially and the person was talking about how their husband used to always want to be with them in the bathroom, like when they're literally taking their bath. And she was a lady saying like she used to tell him like she has no alone time. She comes from the office, she's overstimulated, he wants to be around 2-4-7, and that her time to take her bath is like her personal time to unwind and just like her alone time, and how he would do all he could. Like even if he just heard a twing that's just going towards the bathroom, he would make sure to go in. And immediately she even said it before she got to the end. I was like, this is control. This is control, and this is very unhealthy. And thankfully she herself admitted it. And she was like, sometimes she'll lock the door and he would pick the lock. I thought that was so ridiculous and scary. and he would pick the lock and come in and just like stare at her while she like takes her bath and does all her things in the bathroom. And I thought that was crazy. I'm sorry. I know that maybe some people think that is romantic, but that is not romantic. I think that everyone is entitled to their personal time. They are entitled to personal boundaries and some alone time. Like, no matter how much I love you, I need time to just be myself, to just be in my own space, have time to think. And yeah, I think that it shouldn't be excessive. And like, I want unending time alone. It shouldn't be excessive, but it is needed. And anyone who is ignoring those boundaries, or even if you don't need it, maybe some people don't need alone time. I don't know. My friends are people who also need alone time. So maybe there are a subset of people who exist who don't need alone time. But even if you are that person and you don't need alone time, I think if your partner expresses their need for it, if you were a respectful person who respected their personal boundaries, you would give it to them, because they're adults. And if they ask for something like that, you should yield. So yeah, I think that's a very valid red flag. Very, very valid. Okay, let's move on to the next. The next is texting style differences. This one is already okay. I think, yeah, I'm already. So this says he doesn't text in complete sentences and he uses emojis differently than I do. Okay, for this example, this is kind of ridiculous. This is kind of ridiculous. I was thinking I was going to be in between. Okay, I'm not use ridiculous. I don't know why that's the word coming to my mind. But this is nitpicky. So I was thinking when I saw texting differences, like, oh, I text more often, because that's a good example. Like, oh, I text like maybe you text me, I'm responding immediately, and this other person doesn't text as immediately. And I was going to say in between, because I was thinking in that case, I don't think that a lot of people can change their texting style. They don't like to text. They don't like to text. But I think that is there. I would ask if there is another thing they do that maintains communication, because that's the point. The point of texting is communication, right? Like, you can't say like you don't know how to do every form of communication. Then you're not ready to. you don't want to connect, right? But like, if you don't like to text, but probably you like to call. Like, oh, you don't like to text, you're very, very big on ensuring that like that you guys go on dates very often. But I don't think in this age you can even not like to do either. Then in that case, I would be like, yeah, you're not ready. But if the person doesn't like to, if the text a bit different, but maybe they like call, maybe they ensure that for the lack of texting they call more often, for the lack of preference to texting maybe they call more often, or they send voice notes while you like to physically like write the text. So yeah, I think that in that case that is not valid. As long, the only caveat of whether or not it's not valid is, are they still communicating? So once they're communicating in one form or the other, if it's just a texting style, like, oh, the person uses emojis differently than I do, or they don't text, they use like lots of acronyms, or what's the word? I think that, or they don't text in like complete sentences. I think that might be a little bit, that might be nitpicky. So I think my judgment for that one would be nitpicky. Next is they have slightly different sleep schedules than I do. I think I'm in between for this one. So one says like he goes to bed later than I do and it annoys me. Okay, I would actually say, okay, a bit nitpicky. I would say a bit nitpicky, but because I think that everybody has their own rhythms, right? And people don't have to sleep when you sleep. That's a bit controlling to insist that people sleep when you sleep. The only caveat I would say is just ensure that the person is not the type to then want to almost intentionally disturb your sleep. I think that for every of these things, there are extremes. I had spoken to someone before who was telling me of the partner who knows that like they have an early morning and then doesn't sleep early, but would constantly come into the room and like bang the door, move around a lot, and wakes them up like multiple times, and so they were like really sleep deprived. And I know that sleep deprivation sometimes is a means of control. So apart from that extremity where it is like the person is just doing it to be a pest and to deprive the person of sleep, for apart from that extremity that I hope never happens to anyone, because hopefully we don't date cycles like that. Yeah, if it's just a regular, oh, he sleeps later, I like to sleep 7 on the dots, and she likes to sleep, I don't know, 10 p.m. I think that is like a thing that could be, that's not like, it's not that deep. It can be, that's like a bit nitpicky. So I think my final judgment on that would be nitpicky. Wow, we're definitely not going to finish this list, but let's go on. The next is overemphasis on appearance, and I think immediately, or I think it's similar to one we've spoken on already, immediately valid. This one says like he constantly comments on my weight and says I should exercise more. I think it is not your place to say, to sort of all the time be commenting on someone. Honestly, I don't think it's your place to ever comment on someone's weight. First of all, you should just date people who have like a sense of like they're not doing too much, such that if they are getting to a point in things like weight that is getting too much, they by themselves would try to do something about it. Or you should date people within the weight you prefer, such that you don't feel the need. Like this one, I'm big on this. Date in the weight. If weight is so important to you, then date in the weight range that you prefer. Don't date someone whose weight is maybe naturally chubbier or skinny and then start commenting on it. Nah, that is foul. And immediately commenting on someone's appearance is a no-no. That's an immediate red flag. I think that commenting on someone's body all the time, the only aim to me is that you're trying to reduce that person's self-esteem, and you're trying to reduce their confidence, and you're trying to be controlling, you're trying to humble them, and that is an immediate no. So that's a valid red flag. On to the next, excessive monitoring of activities. Immediately no. Immediately no. So this person says like he insists on knowing where I am at all times, even when we're not together. Please, whether friend, foe, partner, anybody who does this is being controlling, and that throw them in the bin, please. Like, this is a valid red flag. Controlling behavior is always a no. See, or even some of the examples I gave earlier, like the bathroom one or the person not allowing them sleep, it seems very unconventional, right? Like, you wouldn't think of someone doing that and think control, but like, I think that's what I just judge things by. I tell myself, like, what's the basis of this thing? If the foundation of any behavior is control, immediately throw that person in the bin. It's not worth it. That's a very manipulative and sometimes narcissistic behavior, and yeah, that should never be allowed. So it's just monitoring of someone's activities. Everybody's an adult. You can't be, because you're in a relationship with someone, trying to monitor their behavior all the time. You're not entitled to any human being in that way to need to know where they are at all times and be calling them excessively if you don't know. And like, nah, controlling behavior is never okay. So that's a valid red flag. Next is unnecessary guilt tripping. And it says, she makes me feel guilty for spending time with my friends. I think guilt tripping as a whole is an immediate no. So that's a valid red flag. I think anyone who is always trying to guilt trip you is being manipulative, and being manipulative is always an immediate no. So I think that even speaks for itself. It's an immediate no. Okay, let's try to do a couple more. This is definitely going to be a very long episode. We are still going to have to do a part 2 though, because I still have so many more. Okay, next is minor household habits, like she puts the milk carton back in a slightly different spot. Okay, I think that one is definitely being nitpicky. Yeah, I get this one where people are like, oh, she presses can it be the toothpaste type argument? Like, he presses the toothpaste at the bottom and she presses in the middle. I think like that's definitely you being nitpicky. I think that things like that you can sort of adjust or find some form of equilibrium or middle space. So yeah, that's being nitpicky. That person is being nitpicky. That's not a red flag. That's not a real red flag. On to the next is interrupting conversations. He constantly interrupts me when I'm speaking and it makes me feel unheard. This is in between. Because I think that is normal if both of you are like chatty people, that you would interrupt each other. In fact, me, it's a constant in all my conversations with all my friends that we're steady interrupting each other. And yeah, it's not a big deal to me at all. But in some cases, it could mean the person trying to silence you. And so in that case, if it's like constant and you can't tell, usually you can tell when someone is trying to be like, why they think that your voice should not be heard. And especially when it is misogynistic as well, especially in the case of like, it's you as a woman, a man is constantly interrupting. There's a way men who are misogynistic and think like, I don't want you to have an opinion. There's a way they interrupt you that is different from just like normal other type of interruptions. And so of course, when you're sixth sense and you can tell that like their interruption is almost like, shut up, you shouldn't be talking because you're a woman or something like that, like don't talk when I'm talking, all of this type of rubbish. When you can tell it's that type of one, I think that yeah, you should definitely throw that in the bin. But when it's just regular like interruption, honestly, if you just have a friend with ADHD, you're probably just getting interrupted constantly, and that is not malicious at all. So I think that I would be in between for this one, because this is something that I almost adore. It's almost a metric for me when someone is my friend, or how like intimate and close we are, how much we interrupt each other. And so that means this is definitely something that's subjective. Some people don't mind it, some people mind it. And so yeah, I would just stay in between for this one. Next is ignoring personal preferences. Like this one says that she overrodes my personal preference. Like, I think that this one I would be in between, because I think that you've just called it personal preference. It's meaning that it's personal. So I would say it's in between, because people have a right to do things their own way. Just as you have a personal preference, another person also has a personal preference. So I think that it's better each person, if whatever personal preference of yours is a big deal to you, if it's a deal breaker, then you should just date people who have similar personal preferences. You should not sort of enforce your personal preference on another person. So if you are the person complaining that your partner or whoever you're trying to date is ignoring your personal preference, then I think that I would just advise that you get someone who has similar personal preferences to you. For example, a man saying like, oh, my personal preference is a woman who dresses conservatively, and then the person is telling whoever they're dating that doesn't dress conservatively, like, oh, my personal preference is that I get like a woman dresses conservatively, and he's like then angry and say like, you're ignoring my personal preference. I think that that's a bit ridiculous. You see, it's like, why don't you get someone who aligns with you in personal preferences, and yeah, do that. Okay, so next is clothing style preferences. Like this says she wears bright colors and I hate them. You see what I'm saying? This is definitely not valid, because you've called it personal again. It's like your own clothing style preferences. If you know that you like people who don't wear bright colors, which I even just think is ridiculous. Why are you trying to control the type of colors that somebody's wearing? Somebody today who you like because they were wearing darker colors, that is something that is so subject to change. They might be wearing darker colors because it's like in vogue at the moment. And what if there are people who like to go with the style that is in vogue? So that means in a couple of years' time, if bright colors become popular, they will start wearing that. I think that like some of these things, we're just being nitpicky and irritable. I think this one is definitely not valid. This is nitpicky, but like, yeah, to each his own, I guess. The next, and I think this will be the last, would be this one says unnecessary comparisons. He frequently compares me to his ex, saying she did things better. Immediately, no, throw in the absolute bin. This is a valid red flag. Nobody should ever, in fact, there's no caveat to this. Nobody should compare anyone with an ex-partner. Like, that is, to me, aimed at reducing your self-worth. And yeah, anyone who's comparing you should be like, throw away. Let's say immediately. Let's say is Yoruba for immediately. So yeah, you should throw away that person immediately. I think I have definitely, this is going to be one of the longest episodes ever. And we still have just as long as this next week. So besties, this is a wrap for today. I hope you enjoyed this, our deep dive into red flags. And remember that not everything that annoys you is a red flag. And not everything that's a personal preference is a red flag. And also not every disagreement or whatever signals like it's a bad thing, danger, red flag. Patterns matter. It is important that someone respects your preferences and you respect theirs. And sometimes it's just communication. You just need to communicate whatever the thing is. Some of those in-between ones, for example, the one with putting the milk carton here or pressing your toothpaste here, you just need to communicate like, I know this is silly, but like I just like to press my toothpaste like this. Can you press it that way? And I think that would go over. And I think before we panic over like people's little quirks, we can just ask ourselves if it is truly harmful, if it's truly a red flag or a sign of a bigger issue, or if it's just habit and our socialism, the way we have been brought up. If it's harmful, I think you need to dip, and run away, bin them. And if you're just being nitpicky, I think you should just ask yourself and evaluate that. Tell yourself to just calm down, that the person is probably also tolerating things about you that are quirks that are unique to you. Next episode, we'll continue with more real life red flags, and I think we'll also delve into maybe how to spot them before they become a bigger issue if we do have time. Until then, keep your boundaries clear, keep your standards high, and continue to be a light. I love you all. Please share, please subscribe, please follow, please share, and please, I just want to acknowledge that I see all your love. You all are the best. I love you. Bye.